The reason why I'm buying Polkadot's native token called DOT instead of Bitcoin is very simple. It's because I like the room for growth for DOT a lot more than I do Bitcoin. And even though nothing I say is financial advice nor a guarantee, let's face it, Bitcoin, despite it doing very well and despite it affecting the crypto space overall in a very positive way, I do believe that it's pretty much a dinosaur. I mean, you got to think about this, right? Polkadot's native token called DOT, let's say going to the price of $150. That right there is around a 25x from here. So it's not bad, right? Now, on the flip side, could Bitcoin do that from right now? No, I mean, come on. It can't go to the price of, let's say, like over $2 million, let's say during this bull run. I'm not saying the very long term, by the way. I'm just saying during this bull run, like let's say around 6 months to 10 months from right now, that's totally out of the question. Could Bitcoin do okay and let's say go to the price of like $200,000 or maybe let's say around $150,000 at least? Hypothetically, I think so. But then reaching like over $2 million, let's say during this bull run, I mean, come on, right? That's not realistic, even though, you ask someone who's like very bullish on Bitcoin, I don't think they would even say that again during this bull run. I'm not saying the long term. But even besides that point, also, if you take a look at Bitcoin, the use case really isn't that dynamic when compared to DOT. Now, why do I say that? Because if you take a look at Bitcoin, it's primarily just a store of value. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And also, there are Bitcoin layer 2s out there that does give Bitcoin, potentially new use cases. And of course, the Bitcoin ETF is amazing. But if you take a look at Bitcoin, the use case, again, isn't as dynamic as DOT. But before I get into that, people also like to say that, yeah, when it comes to Bitcoin, look at the supply, it's so rare, all this type of stuff. Well, that's very subjective because if you take a look at something like Quant, right? Maximum supply is around 14.6 to around 14.8 million. Now, this is depending on the site or exchange. But even besides that, Quant, in a lot of people's eyes, is not that rare. But actually, in my opinion, it's very rare. Subjectively, of course. Now, again, this all depends on opinion because even if, let's say, you remove like 5 million, Bitcoin, let's say it was lost, that's still not even the max supply of like Quant. So again, right, being rare is very subjective. I think Quant is rare, but some people may not think it's rare. Some people think a million, let's say, supply is way too much. We just don't know. So when it comes to Bitcoin, again, I get it. There's a max supply, but again, it being rare is very subjective. Now, when you take a look at DOT, for instance, why do I think that despite it not being quote unquote rare, why do I think that it's a lot better and more dynamic than Bitcoin? Because if you take a look at Polkadot, its vision, I would say, is a lot greater than Bitcoin. Because for instance, what is Polkadot trying to do? It's aiming to connect blockchains together. It's focused on something called interoperability. Now, we take a look at a very famous example when it comes to lacking interoperability. We're going to use Bitcoin here. Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're both massive, right? But what is a completely caca situation that they have, in my opinion? And that is the fact that they can't freely send data and value to each other. Why is that? It's because, again, they lack interoperability in this case. Now, what is a way to, let's say, remedy that? That's through something like Polkadot. And not only Bitcoin and Ethereum, by the way, many blockchains out there, many networks out there, they lack something called interoperability. Again, they can't freely send data and value to each other. So, of course, that is a complete no bueno in my opinion. Caralho, porra. You know what I mean? It's just not that great. Now, let's also take this into consideration, right? When it comes to Polkadot, it even has a support system. And yeah, you heard that right. Now, what do I mean by this? There's something called Kusama, which is a canary network to Polkadot. Now, some people may think this is kind of corny, but in my opinion, it's not. Because if you actually take a look at it, for instance, right? New projects that usually want to launch on Polkadot, they will typically launch on Kusama first. Now, you may be wondering, okay, what is the benefit of doing that? First of all, it's to test out the project under real economic conditions. And also, it's far cheaper to usually rent, building space. And also on top of that, it's easier to make changes on as well. Now, projects that do launch on Kusama initially, right? They will usually move on later to Polkadot, but they don't have to do that. Because if you actually take a look at it, there's something very amazing on Kusama called Moonriver, which I'm very bullish on, by the way. So yeah, again, not every project is required to move on to Polkadot, but I think this, if anything, showcases that when it comes to Kusama, it's a good way of attracting good talent and good developers to Polkadot eventually, if they want to move on to that. It's like, for instance, right? Let's say you want to sign up for a gym membership. What do you do usually, right? You get a free trial, you test out the gym. If you like it, then you go there. It's like, you test drive a car before you buy it or lease it or whatever, right? To test it out, see if you like it. So Kusama is kind of like that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the test drive and then Polkadot's like getting the actual car, if that makes sense. So if you take a look at, again, Polkadot, that's the genius of Polkadot. If you really think about it, you got to think about how Kusama does attract a lot more talent towards Polkadot because, again, an early developer, they may not have like the capabilities to jump straight onto Polkadot. So I like that when it comes to this whole thing, so to speak. Now, some people may think $150 for DOT is insane, but I disagree because if it were to reach that price, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $228 billion. Let's say we round it up to like $230 billion. Even then, that's still over $300 billion less than Ethereum's all-time high market cap. And come on, right? I think Polkadot is just very dynamic, so I don't see why DOT won't reach that during this bull run, especially when I consider the amazing bullish factors. Now, you take a look at how there's currently over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research. Let's just put some perspective into this figure right here, because some people may argue that, hey, it's not even 10% of the world's population. What do you mean it's impressive, all this? But if you take a look back in 2021, right? During the peak of that bull run, despite that bull run being very amazing, there was roughly only around 300 million crypto owners. Now, again, there's over 600 million according to Crypto.com research. That's practically double. And by the way, this right now is more than ever before in history. So you got to think about that, right? The crypto space overall is heading in such a positive direction. So if the 2021 bull run looked that amazing, could you imagine this time around with this many new crypto owners? I think the sky's the limit, and I think this bull run could be so fantastic. But now it's just a waiting game. I get it. It's a little bit boring. It's like watching paint dry or something like that. But to me, instead of just getting bored and frustrated for no reason, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a technique, in my opinion, that is hypothetically going to take advantage of these boring times, so to speak. And that is by dollar cost averaging. So anytime an income, I'm acquiring, I'm holding, and I'm just waiting. That's it. I've been bullish on DOT for years now. It's been quite a while, but for the people who like to complain that, oh, it's a little bit too long, man. When is DOT going to do this, do that? Well, here's the thing. The way I view it is that if I've been through like the random nonsense in 2022, like let's say the FTX crash, right? The Sam Bankman-Fried Alameda research nonsense. Also on top of that, if I take a look at what happened with Celsius, again, Terra Luna, that complete nonsense. And also you take a look at the FUD about USDT and all this. If I've been through all that, as of right now, it doesn't even feel that bad anymore. You know what I mean? And some people may think that, oh yeah, DOT did well in the past, but it's not going to do well in the future. Well, here's the thing. Again, if something caca like Luna Classic can find a bottom and pump, if something also completely caca, much like Litecoin, can pump in 2021, and also, last but not least, if something like Klima DAO can find a bottom, DOT can at least do okay during this bull run. That's just the way you take a look at it. I'm not going to say it's going to be the best performing thing out there, but still, I don't see why $150 would be too much to ask for. People pump like Luna Classic for fun. Let's face it, that thing has no future. You take a look at Do Kwon, he allegedly ran away, right, to Europe, or should I say fled to Europe, and then allegedly he got caught, apprehended, whatever the case may be. We don't even know his whereabouts as of right now, allegedly. So yeah, when you take a look at something like Luna Classic, again, people pump that for fun. DOT can at least do okay. And you combine that with the fact that DOT has excellent exposure, listed in many major exchanges, not to mention people actually know Polkadot. And let's not forget as well, it has a good reputation, good fundamentals, and then you combine that, let's say, with the bull run potentially being this amazing, I think that the sky's the limit. And again, $150 wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I think that as Bitcoin does reach greater and greater heights, I think altcoin season could be so amazing. Again, I would not acquire Bitcoin, but I do think it's very positive for the space overall. So if Bitcoin were to, let's say, go to the price of $200,000, or let's say even just like $150,000, things could get a lot better, but it's just a waiting game. And again, $150 for DOT wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And that's why I'm buying DOT instead of Bitcoin. If I could only put all my eggs into one basket during this bull run, I have two choices, DOT or Bitcoin. Hands down, it's going to be DOT. I think it's just a lot better for me, personally speaking. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm a peace. Bye.